Cricket, for all its cherished traditions, is a sport that must move with the times. The International Cricket Council, or ICC, is the organization responsible for looking after the game's laws, and every so often, they introduce changes to keep things fair, safe, and exciting for everyone involved. Think of it like a software update for your favorite game, designed to fix bugs, improve the user experience, and ensure it remains compelling. These adjustments are never made lightly. They come after long discussions, trials, and feedback from players, umpires, and experts, all aiming to uphold the spirit of cricket while polishing its modern-day spectacle. The latest set of rules, introduced in mid-2025, are some of the most significant we've seen in a while. The primary motivation behind these updates is to address several key areas. The pace of play, particularly in Test cricket, has been a growing concern, with matches often dragging on due to slow over rates. Safety is another paramount consideration, leading to stricter protocols around head injuries. Furthermore, the ICC is always looking to close loopholes and clarify ambiguities that can lead to controversy on the field. Fairness is the bedrock of any sport, and these changes aim to level the playing field, whether it's ensuring both teams have the same advantages when it comes to player replacements, or refining how technology is used to make those nail-biting decisions. For those who might not follow the game's every detail, these new regulations might seem a little complicated at first glance. However, each one is designed to have a direct and noticeable impact on what we see on our screens and at the grounds. From the simple act of a fielder taking a catch near the boundary to the high-tech drama of the decision review system, the game's flow is set to change. The goal is to make cricket more dynamic for the spectators, more strategic for the captains, and ultimately, a clearer and more consistent sport for the officials to manage. It's an evolution, not a revolution, but one that will certainly get people talking. In essence, these rules are a response to the way modern cricket is played. The athletes are more powerful, the strategies more intricate, and the scrutiny more intense than ever before. The ICC's role is to ensure the framework of the game can support this intensity. Some changes will speed things up, others will add a new layer of tactical thinking, and a few are simply common-sense adjustments to make the game safer and fairer for the players who dedicate their lives to it. Over the next few seasons, we will see exactly how these new pages in cricket's law book redefine the beautiful game we all love. One of the most talked about changes is the introduction of a permanent stop clock across all formats, including Test cricket. This is a direct attempt to tackle the problem of slow over rates. The rule is quite straightforward. The fielding team must be ready to bowl the next over within 60 seconds of the previous one finishing. An on-screen timer will count down, putting pressure on the captain and bowler to get on with it. Teams are allowed 2 warnings per innings. A third failure to be ready on time results in a 5-run penalty, gifting the batting side free runs. This could be hugely significant in a tight match, forcing teams to be far more organized between overs. This rule will fundamentally change the rhythm of a test match. Captains will have less time for long, drawn-out field-setting conferences with their bowlers. The leisurely pace, which some see as part of Test cricket's charm, will be replaced by a greater sense of urgency. For example, after a wicket falls or during a drinks break, the clock will be paused, but in the normal run of play, the pressure is always on. We might see fewer elaborate discussions and more streamlined communication, which could lead to a more fluid and continuous viewing experience for fans, keeping them engaged throughout the day's play. Another major adjustment concerns catches taken near the boundary. We've all seen those incredible athletic efforts where a fielder jumps from outside the rope, catches the ball mid-air, and throws it back into play. The new rule makes this illegal. Now, a fielder who makes their first contact with the ball, while airborne from beyond the boundary, must land with both feet fully inside the playing area for the catch to be valid. This effectively ends the bunny hop catch. A fielder can still parry the ball, but their entire motion must conclude with them being legally back on the field of play. The impact of this boundary catch update will be immediate. Fielders will need to be more cautious when patrolling the ropes. perhaps staying a yard or two further inside to avoid any ambiguity. While this might rob us of a few spectacular highlights, the ICC believes it brings more clarity and fairness, removing a grey area that was often difficult for umpires to judge. For instance, a fielder can no longer use the area outside the boundary as a launchpad. It's a move towards a more black-and-white interpretation of the law, prioritizing certainty over circus-like acrobatics, which is bound to divide opinion among fans and players alike. The one-day international format also sees a fascinating strategic tweak involving the ball. For years, teams have used 2 new balls, one from each end, for the entire 50 overs. Now this will only happen for the first 34 overs. For the final 16 overs of the innings, the fielding captain must choose just one of those 2 used balls to continue with. This introduces a whole new layer of tactics. For example, if one ball has been scuffed up more and might offer some reverse swing, the captain could choose that one to attack the batters. Conversely, they might pick the shinier ball if they want to limit scoring. This single change could reshape the closing stages of an ODI innings. Batters will have to adjust to a ball that is 17 overs old, which behaves very differently from a newer one. It might bring spinners more into the game, or give fast bowlers a better chance of finding that elusive reverse swing, which has largely disappeared from the 50-over format. This decision on which ball to use will become a crucial tactical moment, adding another chess-like element for captains to consider. It's a subtle, but potentially game-changing rule, designed to create more variation and unpredictability in the latter half of an innings. Player safety has rightly been given top priority with updated concussion protocols. Previously, home teams with a large squad at the ground could pick from a wide pool of potential concussion substitutes. Now, teams must pre-nominate their designated substitutes before the match begins, leveling the playing field for touring sides. Furthermore, any player diagnosed with a concussion now faces a mandatory 7-day stand-down period before they can play again. This is a non-negotiable health measure to protect players from the risks of returning to action too soon, putting their well-being above all else. Finally, there are several refinements to the decision review system. One key change affects what happens when a batter is given out, reviews the decision, and the TV umpire finds a different reason for dismissal. For example, if a batter is given out caught behind, but the replay shows no edge, the umpire will now check for LBW. In this scenario, the original decision is now considered out, meaning an umpire's call verdict on the LBW would result in the batter being dismissed. This closes a loophole where batters were previously saved by umpire's call in a secondary review, making the system feel more robust and logical. As with any major change in sport, the reaction from players and fans has been a mixed bag. The stop clock, in particular, has been welcomed by many spectators who feel that the constant delays in Test cricket were making the format difficult to watch. The promise of more action and less waiting around is certainly appealing. However, some captains and fast bowlers have voiced concerns, arguing that the 60-second limit is too rigid and doesn't account for genuine reasons for delay, such as adjusting to a new batter's style or recovering after a long spell in hot conditions. The fear is that it could rush tactical decisions and lead to unfair penalties. The rule changes surrounding player safety have quite rightly received almost universal praise. Pre-nominating concussion substitutes is seen as a simple and fair solution that removes any hint of home ground advantage. The mandatory stand-down period reinforces the game's commitment to player welfare, a message that everyone in the cricket community supports. Similarly, many of the DRS tweaks have been seen as positive, common-sense clarifications that make the system more consistent and reduce the chances of controversial outcomes. Anything that adds clarity and fairness to umpiring decisions is generally a good thing for the integrity of the game. However, there are definite pockets of discontent. The new boundary catch law has its critics, who feel it penalizes incredible athleticism and removes a source of excitement from the game. They argue that the previous rule, while complex, allowed for moments of genius that will now be lost. Another point of contention is the new power given to the fielding captain after a deliberate short run. In addition to a 5-run penalty, the captain can now decide which batter faces the next ball, a punishment some feel is overly punitive and gives too much control to the opposition. Ultimately, whether these changes are a stroke of genius or a source of future controversy will only become clear as they play out on the field. The ICC's intention is undoubtedly to make cricket a better product, faster, fairer, and safer. While some rules, like the stop clock, may require a period of adjustment for players, they will likely lead to a more watchable game. Other changes might need further refinement down the line. For now, the cricket world watches with bated breath, hopeful that this new chapter will enhance the sport's timeless appeal rather than detract from it. The game evolves, as it always has, and this is simply the next step in its journey.